And I should point out that that's not a unique story. I mean, it's heartbreaking. But like Sarah Moorhead went through that. Vicky Garrison.
Sure, many people did.
Cassidy McGillicuddy of Excommunications.
Yeah,
that's a good blog.
Many people did. And the fact is, Jeremiah, God never showed up.
I mean, and the thing is, they went to their pastors. If you listen to their stories, they're great stuff.
I went to mine.
But a common theme, I'm not going to say every pastor says this, but a common theme is that they said you need to get right with God and you need to be submissive to your husband.
That may technically be true, but not in that scenario. That's not being submissive. That's something else entirely. That's that they're being physically abusive or even verbally abusive. You don't submit to that ever.
Well, it says wives be submissive to your husbands.
Yes, it does.
Yes, but it doesn't say.
It doesn't say in the exception of he's beating you.
No, but knowing who Christ is and what he really is about, that does not have to be said. Some things don't have to be said. Well, I know you don't know that. I know that for a fact.
Okay.
But
it's wrong before God to allow someone to put their hands on somebody else.
It's written that you can beat slaves for a couple of days. It doesn't seem out of character to beat your wife.
Well, you also have to understand that slave thing is not the slaves that we had here in America. That's entirely
I don't know that.
Slavery.
Okay.
Well, because you have to read the Bible. Those slaves were basically
please don't say indentured servants.
Huh?
I was going to say, please don't say indentured servitude. Because that's not what it was. Please don't say that because it tells you where to go buy your slaves.
Well, there was that form of slavery, but when it's mentioned in the Bible, it's predominantly in the Bible it's not referring to those types of slaves.
Really?
How do you know that?
Well, because in the Bible it talks about the slaves were indentured servants,
but not all of them.
That does not mean that every slave that has ever existed was like that.
Where does it say that the slaves were indentured servants?
I'll look it up right now. Tell me where.
See, that's the thing.
I will actually do a teaching on that one of these days.
Good, and upload it because I want to hear it.
Because yes, I hear that a lot. That's a common response. And historically, I don't think that's true because we can look at other historical sources and find that they did indeed treat slaves poorly back in the day, and I don't see a reason to differentiate them in the Bible because...
even in the Bible, the Israelites became slaves, and that wasn't the good kind of indentured slavery. That was forced slave labor. It did exist.
Yeah,
both
but I don't...
existed.
There's no historical evidence that the Jews were even slaves in Egypt, so...
Yeah, there's no evidence of that.
I'm basing everything I say off of the Bible alone. I'm not a history buff. I've never done all that stuff, and I'm definitely not a philosopher, so I go by the Bible only. Everything I say is based on that.
I think that's the problem here because you keep bringing up, if you know the character of Jesus and if you know the Bible and based entirely on the Bible, there were 7 days of creation, that's fine. But I don't have a reason to accept this ultimate premise.
Well, not without accepting God as the basis. No, you don't.
Right, but I don't have a reason for that either.
I'm pretty sure in your field, you're the kind of guy, if you go study the Kalam cosmological argument, I think that makes a pretty daggum good foundation
I can argue Kalam if you want.
No.
Well, no.
That is no.
Dr. William Lane Craig for that.
William Lane Craig, I have reasons for thinking is wrong. I wouldn't debate him because I have trouble communicating as well as he does. Okay. But I've heard his argument a million times, and he doesn't. He makes assertions that he can't back up.
Guys, listen. I'm not going to use the last 30 minutes of our show to argue this. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'll be more than happy to let Lee come back on, and we will battle this. I promise I will.
Okay, I will listen to Kalam outside of the show. Will you do something for me, Lee?
Okay.
Will you look up Matt Dillahunty Kalam cosmological argument?
Hang on, let me write that down.
I will email it.
I will. And if you want, I'm going to put my email at the end of the show. If you want to send the best William Lane Craig argument, I'm pretty sure they're all the same because I've heard many of his debates. But I will look at another debate and hear him explain the Kalam cosmological argument, and I'll do that as soon as I can.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. We started out this segment talking about stupid women.
a poorly worded statement.
I was about to say, I'm in reachable distance.
Hey, you're marrying me, hush. All right.
Stupid.
You ought to be submissive to your husband. All right.
Yeah,
All right, listen.
No.
All right. And Lee did a great job saying, look, I probably could have worded that a little differently.
Yes, he did.
Okay.
I really should have.
Okay.
I respect him for doing that.
But folks, that is what actually started the conversation between me and Lee. Was I had listened. Look, I found your podcast by accident. I honestly did, and I don't know if I told you this or not. I was on Spreaker, and I was trying to find me something new to listen to, and I saw this podcast. Y'all, it's called "Leaving Religion at the Door," and I thought, wow, that sounds interesting. I clicked on it, and I found Lee. And y'all, it is a good podcast. You really should go listen to it. Trust me, if you have hair, you won't when you're done. But Lee's a teacher, and you can definitely hear your passion and your heart in what you teach. Although, of course, we disagree on a lot of things. So, guys, please go check that out. But,
I'm definitely fallible.
Yeah. But
Hence.
Aren't we all? But that is what got Lee and I to talking. We started sending emails back and forth, and I'm like, look, I got a great idea. I've got this radio show, and I'd love to talk to you. And Lee has been gracious enough to come on and stick his feet into fire. You know, I personally cannot imagine how nervous I would be if I had to go on a show with 3 Christians and have to defend my non-belief. And I want you to know, I understand how hard that is, Lee. I do. And I admire you for coming on and standing with your feet in the fire. You know, and I promised you that we wouldn't gang up on you, and I tried my best to make sure that we didn't, and that we gave you plenty of time to talk as well, and I hope you feel that we did.
I absolutely do. Yes, sir. Actually, I think this has been it's been an experience that I will never forget as long as I live. I can promise you that, and I appreciate it.
Okay, so you're now an atheist. Awesome.
Not quite.
No. But, you know, I think it is so important that we do try to bridge that gap of communication. I really do.
Absolutely.
When I started this show 2 years ago, this is what I wanted my show to be. I wanted my show to be an open forum for anyone that wanted to come on and share their point of view on anything, on any religion, whether you're Muslim, I don't care, whatever your religion is, Hindu, Buddhist. I was a Buddhist. Okay? So I wanted this show to be what it is tonight, a conversation. And I'm thankful that we're able to start it. And, you know, we had one Christian on before. He's a good friend of ours that we met at an atheist group of all things. And now we have you. And I hope this opens up the door to many other Christians that are willing to come on and have the conversation.
I hope so.
You know, because I think it's important.
Well, if you're going to call yourself a Christian and be too afraid to actually stand in the fire, as you put it, I mean, what good are you?
Well, you know, I was a Christian for years, you know, and there are many people that go, well, you weren't a true Christian because you left. Okay, I know that there's many people that feel that, you know, I understand that. But I was studying for seminary. I was on my way to becoming a pastor, you know, so I truly feel that I was a genuine, true Christian. And I know it goes back to the no true Scotsman fallacy. Well, you weren't a true Christian. What the hell is a true Christian? Point one out to me, and I'll have them write a book. Right?
Yes, sir.
I mean, even you tonight going, well, they wasn't really a Christian. But I would question, how can one Christian say that another person was not a true Christian? Because you're holding their Christianity to your own thought and your own standards. Or at least that's the way I view it.
I can't think of a better way to put it, really. As far as Christianity goes, the reason I take the Bible literally is because I believe in God. And if I believe in God, I believe he created people. He created speech, language, gave it all to us. If he created man and he created speech, language, the written word, and then he had people write it, then he said what he meant and he meant what he said. And that's pretty much the approach that I take on it. I don't think that the Bible is allegory. I think there are times you could take it to be allegory, or you could use it allegorically, but the root of it is it says exactly what it means. And that's kind of how the approach I take on it.
Okay. And there are many people that share that view with you. But then you get someone like me who's read it cover to cover numerous times. I understand hermeneutics. I understand exegesis. I understand all of that. And when I read it, it don't bring me running to God. It took me running away from God. And I think it's back to perception. Whenever I talk to my mother about my non-belief, the thing she said was, when I read the Bible, it leads me further to Jesus. The difference is it made me run from Jesus. And I think what it comes down to is how we approach it, our own presuppositions. When other Christians approach the Bible, you approach it as if God already exists. Therefore, of course, a donkey can talk. God can do anything.
Yeah.
Right? To where when I approach it as if God hasn't proven himself to exist to me, because I would never be so brazen to say that God does not exist. Okay, I would never be that dishonest of a person. He just hasn't proven it to me. So when I look at that and I go, well, wait a minute, a donkey don't talk. I think we lost him. Nope, there he is.
No, I'm here.
A donkey don't talk. A donkey doesn't have the vocal cords to have speech. So when I approach it, that's the way I approach it. I approach it as, well, that's impossible. But thank you so much for taking the time to come on and hang out with us. I know that you said some people from your congregation would be listening, and I hope that you're able to continue the conversation. I hope that when you talk to other atheists and other non-believers, that we've set a good example of what it is to be a non-believer.
Well, if nothing else, I mean, I've told people before, and it's like I told you guys earlier, it's like, you guys show characteristics that are missing in a vast majority of the people in this world who call themselves Christians. And it really makes me sad that, I mean, I don't mean it derogatory, but I mean, if someone who doesn't believe in God does more for the kingdom of God than people who say they do, we're really in a problem here. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm willing to accept that. And, I think we're here to make a community. You may have I don't know if you said this or implied this earlier, but let's just say this. Some people think atheists just want to rebel, and we don't want to accept God. We don't want him. I would love to, but we have a country that's 78% Christian. I have family that's very fundamentalist Christian, and I haven't told most of them because I don't want to get rid of them from my life, but they might get rid of them from me. I would love, if there was a God, for him to show himself and to accept it. But for now, there's a community of people who have been harmed from it, and we're creating a community of our own, and we're there for each other.
Absolutely.
So, that's the reason we're here together. It's not because we hate anything. It's not that we're here to make a podcast about how much we hate God. It's about we don't accept this thing that somebody else says, and we may be in problems because of that societally. So we're just going to make our own friend circles, and that's why we behave the way we do.
Yeah, we are working to move the community forward. That's what we as a show are working toward. All right, well, folks, Lee, thank you so much, buddy, for joining us. I hope you'll hang on, because maybe in the after show we can get into Bible contradictions for a little bit.
Okay.
I know Jeremiah has to go, and I know Miss Ashley's got.
I might stay around.
Okay.
But
All right. Well, folks, listen. As we bring this week's show to a close, we want to say thank you to Lee once again for being willing to come on and have the conversation. We hope that other Christians are listening and will be willing to come on in the future. Next week, we are honored to have our good friends over at Paleo Radio joining us, and we'll talk with an author, J.D. Brucker, about his new book titled Facing Oblivion. Now, we did not have any new patron supporters, and that's okay. But if you guys do want to support us, go over to patreon.com and become a supporter of the show. You will get this after show content that we're going to have after the show. If